The cloud. Hey, everybody. Delisa, Dream Doula here with Christina. Introduce yourself.
Christina Spatero, psychotherapist and relationship coach here. Nice to see everybody again.
Thanks for listening to us. If you do, we appreciate you. And hopefully you get something inspiring out of our chats. And today we're going to chat briefly about resting when you're tired. I was thinking about this recently because when my father was very ill and he was nearly dead, I used to go every day, every Sunday to his house and cook a bunch of food so he'd have food to eat that had no salt in it. He couldn't eat any added salt or it would make him very sick.
Mm.
And one time I was there cooking and he said, I just feel real tired. I said, well, go take a nap, Dad. I'm going to be here for a couple hours cooking. And he's like, oh, seems wrong to sleep during the day. But he was really tired. So he went and laid down. And I thought, wow, you're really sick. You're nearly dead. And you don't give yourself permission to rest.
Mm.
What? And so whenever I resist resting or taking a nap, I
Mhm.
think about that comment that my dad made, like it seems wrong to nap during the day.
Mhm.
And that's not in every culture. Some cultures, it seems really right to nap during the day. But for me, the way I grew up in the USA, we didn't take naps if we weren't a child,
Mhm.
or sometimes on vacation, and it's felt very like a guilty pleasure.
Mhm. Mhm. I
What do you
think
think about that, Christina? And how do you help your people when they're
mm,
obviously a lot of people that go to a therapist are super stressed out, so
mhm.
busy, they don't have time for anything. They probably barely have time for their therapist.
Right.
How do you let them give themselves permission?
Part of the permission is recognizing that it's okay. I see this as part of the umbrella of self-care
Mm,
because resting when you're tired and or taking a break or recharging your batteries or whatever it is you need to do because your body, whether physically, mentally, spiritually, or a combination of all three, has said, okay, look, I need a little break right now. Like, seriously. And the problem is when you don't, because what happens is a lot of people come to me when they're already kind of burnt out or on the verge of burnout. So that means they really haven't done the self care they needed to do. And the self care is so important. It really is. Because I think you are right in this country, we're taught to work ourselves literally to death, and it's okay, but it's actually not okay. I used to joke when I was working in person with other colleagues, and I'd be like, "What happened to the whole idea of the siesta in the afternoon that they do in Europe? Why can't we adopt that here?" Like, that might be nice, and you do hear of it in certain cultures, like I think Google, I never worked with them, but we've heard like they have places like for their employees to kind of recharge, or whether it's having a gym in the place or special chairs or things like that, and I'm like, why aren't we taking care of ourselves? So I what I tell my clients is it's okay to take care of yourself. Because taking care of yourself, doing that self-care is like preventative medicine. If
mhm.
you rest when you're supposed to, if you don't recharge yourself when you need to, you will collapse. You will.
Well, the
It
body needs its rest, and so it'll get it one way or another.
exactly, exactly.
Um, in fact, I have a friend now who's has come down with a form of cancer. And if I
Oh,
think about what his life was like up until now, he was always scurrying and hurrying and worrying. And now he's still scurrying and hurrying and worrying and getting cancer treatment.
wow.
Cancer treatment makes him tired, so he has to rest and take care of himself. That's
Mhm.
a pretty radical way that the universe is going, dude, relax. We're going to make you so sick you can't do the runaround thing anymore.
Mhm.
Now, is that why he got cancer? Because he didn't ever relax? I don't know. I'm not a cancer doctor, but I think that sometimes we do have some kind of accident or get some kind of
Mhm.
illness that gives us the permission we need to
To re-
rest, relax.
I think you're right about that because I've had more than one tell me like, "Oh my goodness, I was fine until this accident, or I was fine until this illness," but they weren't fine. They actually were living a life that was not sustainable long term, and they weren't taking care of themselves, and they weren't even thinking about their needs until they were forced to. You
Mm.
know, the body and the mind are pretty amazing. There are things that you need to do to take care of it. And if you're not doing it voluntarily, it's almost like it will force you to do it. It will force you to do the right thing. I'm diabetic and I'm forced to really think about everything I eat. I
Right.
cannot play with it. I cannot say, oh, I'm just going to do this. No, I can't. My body is going to pay for that choice.
Ooh, just you saying you're diabetic makes me want to eat a cookie. It's that's the other part of, I think, this equation is that if someone tells you you cannot do it,
You want to do it even more?
the human experience is like, ooh, don't tell me what to do. I'm doing that anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously, if you're diabetic, you can't binge eat cookies or do things that are going to put you in the diabetic coma. But how many of us do that on a level that doesn't really kill us or put us in a coma, but it makes us just a little bit sick?
Exactly. Sick physically or sick mentally or sick spiritually. Exactly. And this is where you're doing these micro tears to your body, to your mind, until there's a huge tear.
Right.
And
So some of the ways that people can relax and rest and take care of themselves would be through sleeping well, many hours per night, more than
Mhm.
6. I think 8 to 10 hours is suggested. Now, how many people do you know that get 8 to 10 hours of sleep?
Mhm.
Not very many that I know. And so maybe if you don't get those 8 to 10 hours at night, there's a nap in your world. I
Mhm.
have studied napping for myself ever since I read an article in the 1980s that said the perfect nap time is 20 minutes or less. And I was like,
Oh.
wait, what? Or an hour and a half or more. And that
Mm.
zone in between, you go down into a certain level of sleep where you wake up, you're groggy and you don't feel rested. So
Yes.
some people that aren't nappers and they try napping, they wake up groggy and unrested, and they're like, I'm not doing that anymore. The trick is set a timer for 20 minutes, or there's a guy named Daniel Pink who's
Mhm.
written several books. He's an interesting guy. He said he does something in the afternoon called a nappuccino, where he goes to he walks to his post office, which is nearby, but first he
Mhm.
gives himself an espresso, early afternoon espresso drink. Then he goes to get his mail, and he goes to his office and lies down in a chair and sleeps for, I think he sets the timer for 30 minutes. And when he
Mm.
wakes up, the caffeine is hit and he's ready for his afternoon adventure of working, but he's had his rest also. And I think,
Dang.
what an interesting idea for a guy that wants to work, but then there's a lag in the early afternoon for him. So he drinks the espresso, takes a nap, wakes up and does a few more hours of work. But he also says, he doesn't nap for 2 hours. It's half an hour.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you ever try the 20-minute nap, I'll tell you what, it doesn't feel like you slept. It feels like you went from your busy mind down, 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 down. The mind is quiet for a minute. Maybe you start to dream and then you come back up because it's time to wake up. But
Mhm.
that is still restful to the body and the mind.
Yes. Yes. I will say I've experimented with both. I remember when I was in grad school and you had finals and all that, and I knew the 20-minute refresher and you're trying to get all your stuff done. And I would do the 20 minutes, set the alarm, and you're right, it made the body feel like, okay, I'm a little better now. And then there were times maybe when I wasn't feeling well and I would just let my body sleep naturally for the nap. And the funny thing is, the natural, when I didn't wake it up, was usually the hour and a half. So I would wake up like an hour and a half later, I would feel great because I gave my body what it needed. And going back to the idea that in European countries, you have the siestas that now I admit I haven't been to Europe yet, so I'm not exactly sure how this works, but just the idea that they actually say we need those break times during the day. Like what will we do is horribly unhealthy. We cannot go continuously without a break, that you actually are more productive if you take that break at that certain point when your body needs it.
Yes, I spent some time in a beautiful town, which is now more populated when it was when I visited in the 80s in Merida, Mexico. And they
Mm.
took a siesta hour, a couple hours in the afternoon. All the shops closed. It was also, I was there in the summer, it was rainy season. So it poured down rain every afternoon while it was siesta time. All the shops were closed. People were just home napping, except there was a bar in this town where they had live music and dancing. And
Mm.
this young guy that gave us a tour, he goes, "This is what all the businessmen do during their siesta time. They don't go home to their wives, they dance with their mistresses." What? So who knows what kind of shenanigans go on in those
Mhm.
cultures where there's napping involved, siesta time. Maybe not everyone just goes home and naps, but they have that time off from working, which is in itself its own delight.
That is true. That is
Yeah,
true. Because
yeah,
it really is about recharging the body. We cannot go, go, go. You need to nourish yourself. In fact, when they talk about dieting or healthy, as I'm trying to be healthier for my diabetes, they talk about when you eat, don't worry about counting calories and stuff. Eat stuff that's good for you, but eat so you're satiated, not stuffed, but satiated. And I think the same thing is true with rest.
mhm,
Rest so you're satiated with sleep, not to a point where you feel groggy, not under, but so your body gets what it needs.
yeah, that's so beautiful. And the other ways people can rest and relax, which doesn't include sleeping, of course, are things like mindfulness, meditation,
Mhm.
uh, doing something creative that you love, because that always uh, makes you happy, right? You feel more joy and happiness after doing something creative, and you
Mhm.
feel more more relaxed. And I don't know what else you get from mindfulness and meditation. I mean, I think most people get a relaxation feeling, a feeling of more connection with everything around them after
Mhm.
they've done something like that. Qigong, exercise classes.
Mhm.
What else can you think of that people could do to relax and rejuvenate?
If you're an artist, sketching, painting, something that just lets the mind wander. I'm also a writer, so like that is I get when I'm journaling or even when I'm just writing a story or a scene, I find that incredibly relaxing. Because it takes it you're basically when you're working, you're forcing your mind and your body on a specific task. And with clients who have ADHD, we talk about the importance of breaking stuff down into chunks and taking breaks. Because one of the issues is the difficulty with focus. Even if you don't have ADHD, I think it's important to give yourself those mental breaks because you're all working on this concentrated thing over and over and over again. And the idea is take that break. So whether it's mindfulness, I like tapping into your five senses. What are your surroundings? Go for a walk outside, draw, paint, whatever it is, yoga, whatever it is that can let your mind just switch off the stuff that's really pressured and switch on a little relaxation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm not sure if anyone thinks about this anymore, but I remember long before the COVID era, I read something that said every time if you're working on a task, let's say you
Mhm,
have a desk job, you're working on a
mhm,
task, and someone
mhm.
comes in and interrupts you, it takes you 20 minutes to get back into the zone
Yes.
from every interruption. And so having also in art school, the 20 minutes was like a magic number of minutes to be focused on a task.
Mhm.
Would do life drawing with a live model, and they'd hold the pose for 20 minutes and then they'd get a break.
Mm,
And then they'd hold the pose for 20 minutes and then they'd get a break. And
interesting.
so I got used to putting a timer on for 20 minutes, doing something focused, and then taking a break. That's also a great way to kind of break up your day while you're working.
I like that. I like that a lot. And there's many different ways to do the alert, as it were. You can use your phone alarm. You could use anything, anything. You could have a piece of music come on at a certain time.
Mm.
Use the technology to your advantage.
Oh, I love that. Because I would rather have a song come on when my 20 minutes was up than do
Mm.
do 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 some little jingly thing, some little jingly thing on
It's
my
true.
phone alarm. Oh yeah, that's a great idea, Christina.
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
any last words of wisdom for our listeners on rest and relax? Permission to care for the self might be what I call this.
So we are obviously giving you permission to do it. We're telling you how good it is. But we are also saying, give permission to yourself. You deserve to feel as energized and as at peace and just rejuvenated as possible. You deserve that. You don't deserve less. So don't give yourself less than what you deserve.
Ooh, thank you. Great words of wisdom. Bye
Thanks.
for now.
Bye.